Hey everyone, I'm Jason, and this is your commentary on Leviticus chapter 27. This chapter is about consecrations and devotions, redemptions and tithes. It's broken down into 7 sections, 4 of which are the vows. We have the vows of people, of animals, of houses, and of fields. We also see the redeeming of fields, devoted things, and tithes. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites. Tell them, suppose someone makes a special promise to set a person apart to serve the Lord. Here is how much it will cost to set that person free from the promise to serve. The cost for a male between the ages of 20 and 60 is 20 ounces of silver. It must be weighed out in keeping with the standard weights that are used in the sacred tent. The cost for a female of the same age is 12 ounces of silver. The cost for a male between the ages of 5 and 20 is 8 ounces of silver. The cost for a female of the same age is 4 ounces of silver. The cost for a male between the ages of 1 month and 5 years is 2 ounces of silver. The cost for a female of the same age is 1 ounce of silver. The cost for a male who is 60 years or more is 6 ounces of silver. The cost for a female of the same age is 4 ounces of silver. But suppose the one who makes the special promise is too poor to pay the required amount. Then they must bring to the priest the person who will be set free. The priest will decide the right value for that person. It will be based on how much the one who makes the promise can afford. Here we see a matter of utility, that when it comes to someone who is promised to serve the Lord, in order to buy them back, you'd have to buy them back based upon their utility, or how much they could do, which is why a male between the ages of 20 and 60 is going to cost more than someone who's over 60, or someone who's younger than 5 years of age. So it's all based upon their age and what they're able to do. This is actually a sharp contrast to what we see over in Exodus chapter 30. In Exodus 30, God says that everyone must pay a price. It says that the poor should not pay less, the rich should not pay more, because it wasn't a matter of utility. For them, it was a matter of title, their standing with God. And that when it comes to our standing before God and our title, our relationship to Him, the cost is the same across the board for everybody. But people throughout their life and at different times in their own life do have different abilities and things that we can do for the Lord. And so that's what He's talking about here. It's the service that they can do for the priests. And this carries over into the animals as well. Suppose what they promised is an animal that the Lord will accept as an offering. Then the animal given to the Lord becomes holy. The one who makes the promise must not trade it. They must not trade a good animal for a bad one, and they must not trade a bad animal for a good one. Suppose they choose one animal instead of another. Then both animals become holy. Suppose the animal they promised is not clean. Suppose the Lord will not accept it as an offering. Then the animal must be brought to the priest. He will decide whether it is good or bad. Its value will be what he decides it will be. Suppose the owner wants to buy the animal back. Then a fifth must be added to its cost. Here we see with the animal that if it's a clean animal, whether it's good or bad, if it was promised to God, it belongs to God. If it's an unclean animal, then the priest wouldn't really be able to use it for a sacrifice. They wouldn't be able to use it for food. And so they gave the person who made the promise a chance to buy it back. Suppose someone sets apart their house as something holy to the Lord. Then the priest will decide whether it is good or bad. Its value will remain what he decides it will be. Suppose the person sets apart their house, and suppose later they want to buy it back. Then they must add a fifth to its value. The house will belong to them again. Similar to the animals, the redeeming price for a house is the value plus 1/5 of it. Suppose someone sets apart a piece of their family's land to the Lord. Then here's how its value must be decided. It must be based on the number of seeds that are required to grow a full crop on it. That value will be 20 ounces of silver for every 300 pounds of barley seeds. Suppose they set apart their field during the year of Jubilee. Then the value that has been decided will not be changed. But suppose they set apart their field after the year of Jubilee. Then here's how the priest will decide its value. It will be based on the number of years that are left until the next year of Jubilee. the value decided will be reduced. In previous chapters, we learned that the land actually belongs to God. And so when a person sold or promised their land, it wasn't the land that they were promising, but the number of crops. And that's the value of the land. How many crops can be produced on it? Not only in this year, if it were the year of Jubilee, but if it weren't the year of Jubilee, then throughout every single year going up to the year of Jubilee. Because that was not only the size of the crops, but the number of crops that they would have for each of the years that they would have the field. Suppose the one who sets apart their field wants to buy it back. Then they must add a fifth to its value. The field will belong to them again. But suppose they do not buy back the field. Instead, suppose they sell it to someone else. Then they can never buy it back. When the field is set free in the year of Jubilee, it will become holy. It will be like a field set apart to the Lord. It will become the property of the priests. Suppose someone sets apart to the Lord a field they have bought, and suppose it is not part of their family's land. Then here is how the priest will decide its value. It will be based on the number of years that are left unto the year of Jubilee. The owner must pay that value on the day it is decided. The money is holy. It is set apart for the Lord. In the year of Jubilee, the field will go back to the person it was bought from. That person is the one who had owned the land before. Every amount of money must be weighed out in keeping with the standard weights used in the sacred tent. Again, we see the addition of a 1/5 of the value when it comes to redeeming something. This was with the animals, this is with the houses, this is with the fields. That if you want to buy something back, you want to redeem it from a promise that was made, God consistently asks for 1/5 of the value to be added on top of it. We also see how you can promise your land, and you can promise land that you bought, but because of God's command that the land belongs to Him, and that in the year of Jubilee it will always go back to the original owners, then even if you promise land that you have momentarily, in the year of Jubilee it will actually be restored to them. With all of these vows, we've been talking about consecrations, or things that are sanctified, things that are set apart for God. This is actually different from something that is devoted to God. Something that is set apart means that its utility, its purpose is for God. And that's what you're doing. You're using it for God. By contrast, something that is devoted to God is 100%. It's complete. It's final. That if you give it to Him, then He can use it for whatever purpose He wants. But no one can set apart the first male animal born to its mother. That animal already belongs to the Lord. It does not matter whether it is an ox or a sheep. It belongs to the Lord. Suppose it is an unclean animal. Then the owner may buy it back at the value that has been decided, and they must add a fifth to its value. But suppose it is not bought back. Then it must be sold at the value that has been decided. But nothing a person owns and sets apart to the Lord can be sold or bought back. It does not matter whether it is a human being or an animal or a family's land. Everything set apart to the Lord is very holy to Him. No one set apart in a special way to be destroyed can be bought back. They must be put to death. Things that are sanctified by a vow and set apart for divine use, those things can be redeemed. If you made a promise, God was allowing them to back out of the promise. They had to pay the full value plus 1/5. But if something was devoted, if it was 100% completely and finally given over to God, there was no way to buy that back. 1/10 of everything the land produces belongs to the Lord. That includes grain from the soil and fruit from the trees. It is holy. It is set apart for Him. Suppose someone wants to buy back some of their 10th. Then they must add a fifth of the cost to it. Every 10th part of herds and flocks will be holy. They will be set apart for the Lord. That includes every 10th animal that its shepherd marks with his wooden staff. No one may pick out the good animals from the bad. They must not choose one animal instead of another. But if anyone does, both animals become holy. They can't be bought back. The Lord gave Moses all these commands on Mount Sinai for the Israelites. Here we see a command to the Israelites that they're supposed to give a tithe, or literally a tenth of what they own, back to God. This is called the Levitical Tithe because it was paid to the Levites. This was God's way of providing for His temple and His workers. God is the creator and master over everything. When a promise is made to give back to God part of what is already His, we should make every effort to keep that promise. Things that are set apart can be redeemed, but things that are completely devoted cannot. We see that the tithe was a command that God gave to the Israelites. Technically, we're not Israelites, and we're not underneath the law, so we don't have to give back a tenth. However, we have been freed by grace to give back to God everything that we have and everything that we are. God doesn't need or want any of our possessions. He already owns everything. He just wants us. We have been consecrated by the Holy Spirit. We have been redeemed by Jesus Christ, so that we might live wholly devoted to God. Well, that's it for our commentary on Leviticus chapter 27. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time.